Hello, everyone. Welcome to another weekly episode or bi weekly episode of Popcorn and Palava. With me, the usual guests, Maiwa and Fawaz. I'm going to give it over to Maiwa. How are you doing this week?
I mean, we talked about this already. I'm in a funk, man. So I'm not going to um, bore listeners with my funky day. But so far, so good. It's been an okay week, and I'm glad to be here. So yeah, not a ton.
Thank you. Well, all I'll say is men have feelings too, and we can talk about them if we have to. Fawaz, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. On the eve of a non-podcast debate yesterday that got pretty heated, about a movie, pretty interesting. So I'm pretty primed to battle whatever topic we have today. So
Wow. Okay.
just be ready.
That's hot. That's hot. You know, the interesting thing is maybe this can help Maiwa through his funk because this is a topic he brought up. The
Okay.
topic is what's with all the remakes and reboots? Which ones make sense and which ones are pointless? So, Maiwa, I'm going to give you the floor. Can you give us
Okay.
some context to the topic you brought up?
I mean, nothing crazy, right? Like I was thinking about it. I'm like, Hollywood keeps giving us all these remakes and reboots, and and so I'm curious, which ones hit a home run? Yeah, which reboots looked good, or were better than the original, right?
Mm.
Because we keep getting all these classic, these reboots to classics that are actually like classics that should be left alone. Like these
Yeah.
iconic movies, and so I wanted us to explore, really, which ones did it well, and which ones just kind of screwed everything up. So,
All right.
and I'm happy to start. I had a couple of good. At first, I was gonna go through the good ones, right? The shows that
Sure.
did well. Oh, sorry, the movies that were better than the original, and then the
Okay.
ones that were just horrendous, right? And the first one that comes to mind, I think, is one we've talked about before, Dune. I think,
Yeah.
they came back, they did a nice little reboot to Dune, better CGI, better storyline, better actors, actually. So, that was a good remake. Karate Kid comes to mind,
Yeah.
little Will Smith's son, I forget his name, is it Jaden Smith, whatever.
Jaden
Jaden
Smith.
Jaden Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, with Jackie Chan, who himself is an icon. So those were, and then some other ones. It's one surprised me though. I didn't know Scarface was a reboot. Did you guys know
Yeah.
that?
I did
Yes.
not.
Scarface
That's
is a
news to
reboot.
me. That's news to
I
me.
The
I
original came
was
out in
shocked.
the original came out in
1932.
like 1923 or something.
32. I looked it up. Original
1932.
came out in
Sorry.
1932. Yeah, it's a remake. I didn't know that. So I can't honestly like when a remake is so good that you didn't even think that there was an original. I think that
Yeah.
that says something about it. So those were some really good ones that I liked. And then the ones that I just trash. I think they've tried to reboot The Crow so many times, man,
Mm.
and every time it just looks worse than before. I don't know. Have you guys seen the latest one with
No.
the Skarsgård kid?
Bill Skarsgård. Yeah. No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
haven't
he's a
seen
good
it.
actor,
He
right? So
is.
you
He's
would
on like a
think
little
that,
action thing going on
yeah,
right now. It's got a
he
little action thing going
is.
on.
But it was trash. I watched it.
Mm.
It was trash. I had good hopes for it. It trash. And
We're
then
talking
two
about the
others that
crow here.
The
The
Crow.
Crow,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The reboot, the next. I mean, there's been a bunch of reboots, but they've all been trash.
Yeah.
And then The Mummy with Tom Cruise, that was trash. I don't know what they were
I don't.
trying to do there.
I'm confused. I've seen that movie. That was
Yes,
bad, but I don't even know if it's. Is it a reboot of the previous Mummy?
I
It
think they
felt
were
completely
shooting for that.
different. It
I think
felt
they
completely different.
that was the whole goal, right? Is like
Um,
we're gonna bring this out with Tom Cruise. I think they were going to create some kind of monster verse with
oh,
like
they're
a
trying to.
Frankenstein. Yes, they were
I
gonna do
see.
like
I
a
see.
Frankenstein, a Dracula, a Mummy, and yeah, and Tom Cruise was supposed to be. But because
It's not a
that
bad
one
idea.
bombed so bad,
It killed the rest.
they killed the red. This guy was in it too. Russell Crowe was
Russell
in
Crowe,
it.
yeah,
Well,
Russell Crowe,
yeah, yeah.
and what's her face, the one that played the mummy, the actual Empress Mummy or whatever it's called.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
The
I
lady
forget her name right
from
now.
it
I
might
think
be
she
the
was
lady
in.
from Rebel Moon.
Yeah,
I
she was in
think. Yeah,
Kingsman. She was the knife,
yeah.
the girl with the knife legs in
The girl with the
Kingsman.
knife. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was and then another one that was just bad, bad. Ben Hur. Did you guys see that
I ain't never watching
remake?
no
The
Ben
new
Hur. No,
remake. Oh, it was terrible. I mean,
I
there
ain't
was
watching no
Ben
Ben Hur.
Hur from no, no. Well, there was Ben Hur from like back in the day, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah, the classic, old classic.
yeah,
Yeah.
Charleston Heston, right? Like my dad had that one, and it was that was a legendary, movie. And then they
Yeah.
went and screwed it up with, the remake. I think it bombed in the box office too. So,
Mm,
so those are my, takes on movies that, some movies that were better than the original, and then others that just were trash.
mm. I,
Yeah.
So
for me,
before we go
um,
in, I want us to
oh,
talk
okay.
statistics. Thanks for jumping in and talking a little bit about some of your experiences. But one of the things that we should talk about is the fact that Hollywood is not making as many remakes as they used to. So, in
Mm.
a sense, it's interesting to hear your perspective about which remakes are being made, what when they're making remakes, are we being um, flushed with the same story over and over again? I think that the
Mm,
interesting thing is, in the past we used to have significantly more movies remade than what we had right now. And in fact, some of the best
yeah.
directors at a point, including Alfred Hitchcock, remade
Mm.
even some of their own films within a span of 10 years. So
Interesting.
it's interesting to hear the perspective about it. But my question is it that the volume of movies are reducing, so the remakes are so much more blatant, or is it that you don't like the fact that they're remaking films, which of course Hollywood is doing less and less of? Because when you think
Mm,
about it, all the movies, all the most successful films that came out in the last few years have been original Marvel films. A lot of them have lived in that Marvel world, and they're all
yeah.
typically original films. So for a long time, Hollywood have moved away from doing the B movie, the A plus
Mm.
movie. They're all doing triple A films where they are expected to make billions. And because they're all based on comic books, they don't have to remake older films. So my question to you, Maiwa, and to Fawaz, before we jump into more movies that are
Mhm.
remakes of older ones, is this a perception problem, or
Mm,
is this a problem where people are, I mean, perception in the sense that people want to watch something else outside
yeah.
of Marvel films and they can't find
Mm.
those? Um, or is it a situation where people genuinely feel like Hollywood is not being as interesting as it could be, or being as they're being more risk averse?
Yeah.
I mean,
If you don't mind, let me
yeah, no, no, no,
jump in real
absolutely.
quick. I think there was a point in time in Hollywood where everything, well, I would say there was a period in time where Hollywood was being extremely risk averse. I'll say around the 2010s, maybe a little bit, a few years prior and after, they were rebooting everything. Everything was a remake. Everything was a reimagining. And I think, and I don't personally think there's anything wrong with remakes, or reimagining an older piece of art or movie. But I think it just got tired. There were many misses, and there was a lot of money spent on it. And I think that's why there was a big scramble for a company like Disney to buy a lot of these IP. That's why there was a scramble for them to obtain Star Wars, to obtain the Marvel comics, all the Marvel, all of Fox. so they can use these already sort of established um, intellectual properties to create more original movies. But now today we're sort of inundated with like the comic book movies, and there are fewer originals that are making the blockbuster numbers. Um, I do think that it's a mix of both. I think people are tired of just watching constant remakes, especially after so many misses. And I think people are also tired of just constantly watching a new Marvel spin-off or a new superhero movie. Every single blockbuster is like a AAA thing. That's why um, the smaller movies are even getting a lot more focus now. Like I think about Godzilla minus one. Technically, it's a remake of sorts, but it's not a remake in the way that the previous Godzilla that the American company did was, or like horror movies, or something like Hereditary, something like um, what's this? Midsommar.
Midsummer, yeah.
Midsommar.
With
Like, yeah, these original concepts are the ones that are now like become the cult shows, the ones that everyone's watching, everything everywhere all at once. I think Hollywood has sort of bought into this idea that, oh, we got to do the big blockbuster Marvel AAA, spend 500 million and get 2 billion back. But now they're seeing that that is not working at every time. I mean, even some of the Marvel shows, the Marvel TV shows are extremely expensive, like $300 million shows. Then people just watch it and hate it, you know.
Yeah.
And as a result of how much money they're spending to create this show, they don't want to take any risks with the art that they're creating, and it ends up being just milk toast. It's just bland, and it doesn't resonate with anyone. So, to answer your question, I think it's a mix of both. It's a little bit on both sides.
So let's talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie that has reached a lot of constellation this last week or this last weekend or this weekend. To be fair, this movie was made on was released in 2022 and made a total of 143,412,000 worldwide. Right, so the movie made a profit, right, for the most part. The interesting thing about it is this: it was an original film, extremely what do you call it? Inventive in what it was trying to do, but it also failed to reach a wider audience. So
Yeah.
if Hollywood is putting money into movies that are risky like this and they're not getting the earnings, is it on them then to go, let's do more of this, or should they focus on the profit earnings and try to actually make a movie that people are interested in watching?
That's
I mean,
that. Sorry, Mario. Go ahead.
no, no. I honestly, like, I don't know the answer to your question, right? I really don't. We don't know how these execs are thinking about these things. I don't have a problem with remakes, right? I mean, when you think about a song or you think about, um, a song that someone remixed and brought back, right? What they'll tell you is we're trying to open this up to a new audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, think about it. There are movies that I watched in the 80s or 90s, and my kids can kind of watch a different interpretation of it in 2020, 2024, right?
Right.
I don't
Right.
have an issue with that. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, when you are bringing out a remake or, let's put some work into it. Yeah. Let it have a good script. Let it have a good director. What I don't like is, you take a classic, we just talked about Scarface, thank God they did a remake to Scarface, right? Because I mean, when you think about it, right, Al Pacino killed it. So much so that nobody even knows that there was a remix. Sorry, that it was a remake, right? So again, don't have an issue with it. If we're running, if again we're being inundated with superhero movies and it's, they're all. I mean, we're tired, right? if you
Yeah,
want to do a remake and you want to bring it to a new crowd, Planet of the Apes is another example.
that
Yeah,
was
they
one I
brought
was
it
gonna call
back.
out.
They
Yeah,
brought it back, and
and it was
it
amazing.
looked
Yeah,
good. It was great. They had a good script. They had a good director. They made it happen. It's become its own trilogy now,
yeah,
apparently, right? So I again don't have an issue with the remakes. Don't have an issue with bringing something back. Yeah, let the new generation experience it, right? It is
yeah,
another one, you know. But
yeah,
if we're gonna do that, let's do it well. Let's let it be well done. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's the part of the issue with all these superhero movies now is that everybody just assumes that we're going to go to the theaters because there's a
It
new
has a
Captain
Marvel
America
logo.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Nah, man, nah, we're
You bring
not doing that anymore.
you bring up a good point there because I know Fantastic Four has been rebooted like 3 times already
Oh
from
yeah,
its
oh yeah.
original in 19. So like they've done it. They did it in 1980s. It wasn't mid. They did it again in 2000s. They did it in the 2010s. Those one were abject failures. I think the
Yeah,
first one was fairly successful.
yeah.
Um, I think to answer Demletter's question, I think the movie companies have to pick their blockbusters carefully. Right now, it seems like they're just going down all the Marvel IP they have. Like they have a spreadsheet of all Marvel characters and creations, and they're like, let's do this one. Yeah, let's try this one. Let's do the Monkey Man assassin that no one. Yeah, let's do that one. And they just go and like people like Marvel. Who's this person? Power person, Sentinel person. Yeah, let's even me as a comic book reader when I was young. Some of the characters and shows they're coming out with, I'm like, this is fuck. I don't care. Like no one cares about these characters. So build something interesting. Like the reason why the first Avengers was so successful, they took their time to build it. There was a lot of passion put into that project, and you could tell how much work and effort and passion people were putting into it. And I think it came to a place where now because they'd been so successful so long, it had become formulaic. And what was revolutionary then is no longer revolutionary. What was different that they were doing in the 2010s after 10 years of Marvel and comic book movies, it's no longer grabbing the audience. So they have to switch it up somehow. They have to think about a different way to tell the story, and they have to make these characters a lot more enjoyable. There's a Marvel
Mm.
thing that is happening that is, and I was arguing with a friend about this, um, because I was seeing it in a video game. I was seeing that sort of thing in a video game, and it's a Marvel thing that is permutated itself through a lot of media, where everything has to be super quippy. Everything someone has to have the one liner jokes. Nothing is really super serious, even though they're in a life or death situation. Someone's going to be cracking jokes next to you as the whole world's about to be destroyed. And I was like,
Mm.
bro, like all the stakes are gone. Like in these shows, I mean, there's like a multiverse. All right, this multiverse disappears. Who cares? There's another Iron Man somewhere. Like all the stakes are gone now. Everyone's just trying to be funny and cool and oh, it's just the Wonder Guy. Oh, I'm handsome, cool, making jokes. Everybody's laughing. But like, yeah, but this dude just ate 5 planets. What are you laughing about? My family just died. Like, you know, they need to
It's
bring
good.
back the stakes. And I think
Yeah.
that's one reason why I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, the last one. I thought was a beautiful film because
Mm.
even though the main characters, the Guardians, are extremely unserious all the time. That's just how they are.
Mm.
And they even play into that with the whole, oh, you got one of those dummies on your team too. Like that part of the movie made me laugh so hard because Nathan Fillion is funny. But they played into that, but then they had the villain who was so serious. He was not fucking around. He was extremely serious, and shout outs to him, killed that role. Without him in that role, that movie would have been bad because he kept the stakes going. He made it seem like, oh yeah, these guys are cracking jokes, but this man is destroying whole planets, and he's serious about getting that raccoon, right? So they felt like they had stakes in the movie. They felt like something important was going to happen to the characters, which I think is lost in all the superheroes stuff now, all the stuff they're bringing out. And
You
I
know,
was seeing that in that game I was referencing earlier, and it was kind of annoying. But yeah, sorry, go on.
just gonna jump on that and say, one of the few directors that can actually take an obscure character and make him feel like you should care about him is James Gunn. Um, and
Yeah.
that's one of his biggest capabilities. Um, when you look at the Suicide Squad, it probably didn't do so well in the box office, but the character, the Rat Catcher, was quite
Yeah.
impressively developed. Even Polka Dot Man was very
Yeah.
well developed, and you know,
Yeah.
the there's
Absolutely.
been a lot of constellations amongst DC fans about amongst Marvel fans because they are seeing like their whole empire crumble about how James Gunn is gonna take the DC world and improve it. And I take umbrage in all the movies he's made, um, and how he's built characters, obscure characters, and make their relevance pretty good. So even the
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy themselves are obscure characters,
Yeah, they're obscure. No
and
one
he
cared.
made
No,
them relevant.
yeah, no one cared
So
about Guardians until that movie came out, right?
yeah,
That's a good point you bring about because the Suicide Squad one was trash. It was bad. But then the second one, it's a bunch of people we don't know. Polka Dot
hmm
Man, Ratcatcher, and he made it compelling. It didn't
yeah,
even the Idris Elba's character, Peacemaker. No one cares. Peacemaker got his own show based off that movie. Just how
yeah.
compelling he's able to write these characters. So they need to do more of that and stop all this BS they're doing right now, bro. I mean, I'll be honest.
So
Even as a
let,
comic book person, I'm exhausted with it.
I'm gonna go back to the main topic.
Yes,
Gonna
yes, reboots.
to cycle back, and I'll use this opportunity to actually ask. Maya has given us his list of films that he considers to be good remakes and list of films that he considers to be bad remakes.
Hmm.
I will say that the Ben Hur movie you talked about, you talked about the new Ben Hur film that was remade recently, and you talked about how horrible it was. I will say that the one we consider to be the original Ben Hur, the one that came out in 1952, was also a remake of a 1925 Ben Hur film. Um,
Mm,
so
Wow.
if you felt like the
wow.
1952 one
Interesting.
was better, it just kind of eclipsed the original. So
Interesting.
Okay, that's interesting for
I'm gonna
sure.
talk a little bit about
Yeah.
some of the ones that I've thought were not great.
Mm,
I will say Old Boy was
Mm.
a
uh,
movie that was remade
miss,
that was quite horrible.
miss
I mean, they
hardness.
tried to capture the essence of what the movie was about,
Yeah,
uh, but
they tried.
there's no way you can take a Korean film and translate it into America. The cultures are very, very
Yeah,
different.
yeah. Once they
Yeah.
announced
In
it,
terms
once they
of
announced that movie, I knew it wasn't gonna work.
yeah,
I knew it wasn't gonna work.
yeah. In terms of TV shows, I know we're talking a little about movies, but I do want to
Mm.
talk about the anime that was remade into a TV show that Netflix had. What's the name of that? Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy
Mm.
Bebop was a show that is. I don't really watch a lot of anime, but Cowboy Bebop is close to my heart. It's a really, really well balanced show. And I think the problem with the remake was the fact that some of the high stakes in the original became lower stakes in the remake,
Mm,
and they used some very weird explanations to try to um, try to make things work. And I think in those decisions, that was where things got lost.
mm,
Um, One show that I think that was a good remake, even though I can't say for sure that I've watched it, is One Piece. I haven't really watched the comics, but they told me they're anime. But somebody told me it was
yeah,
1,000 over 1,000 episodes, and I was like,
it
that's too
is
many.
easily,
If you've
easily over a
made over a
thousand.
thousand episodes of a show, you don't know how to end the show. So I'm just assuming it's not great. Uh,
uh, no,
um,
it's good. It's good. The One Piece fans, they won't wrestle with that. Say that all the time. Like this man doesn't know how he's gonna end this shit at the end of the day. But
mm,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
you know,
1,000 is come on now.
and
Um,
Yeah. I didn't even watch it. If I'm being honest,
yeah,
Cowboy
I did.
Bebop. I saw the cartoon. I saw the animated one, but like I never really went back to it because I heard it was like bad. So I just didn't even bother.
Mm,
Nice
the
cast,
yeah.
yeah,
but
Yeah, I mean,
And the last one I'm going to talk about is
mm,
the original is not as good. The remake is not as good as the original,
the original. Okay.
but the remake got an Oscar nomination,
What?
and that's
How?
The Departed.
Yes,
Interesting.
yes, yes,
And
yes, yes, yes,
if
yes,
you
yes,
watch the
yes.
original
Absolutely.
movie, Infernal Affairs,
Infernal
it's a much
Affairs.
better film.
It
But
is.
The Departed was so good that it got an Oscar nomination. So
Or we should say
it gets you in
Interesting.
there.
Infernal Affairs was so good that Departed got an Oscar
Yes.
nomination. If we're
Yes.
being real.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. So they weren't named the same. They were different
No.
names, but like the
Different
same
names.
Different
story.
names.
It's weird. Okay, about that, I was a little. It's because Infernal Affairs and The Departed, some things are like shot for shot. It's like a remake. The way you look at your friend's answers and say, "Yeah, let me just turn a few words around a little bit."
Just copy it. Okay.
Yeah, low key. Like he did a lot of things shot for shot, but then he like added his own spin by making like obviously it being in American sort of problems, or oh he's FBI instead of being a whatever they have in Hong Kong. Yeah, but I agree 100%. Even though both were good, yeah,
I think what killed the
absolutely.
American version, especially when you watch the the original Infernal Affairs, is the end. Um,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
when you watch the original, how it ended, and then you watch the American version, it feels like a cop out. So my advice is to watch Infernal Affairs, and it
Yeah.
features Tony Leung. It's so good, so good. But then you watch The Departed, and you see a lot of similar. In fact, a lot of the things are so similar until you get to the very end, and then you're like,
Yeah.
Hollywood got in the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my list. Fawaz, what's your list?
Well, let me
I'll let
ask you
Maiwa go
one
first.
quick.
Okay.
No. I just want to ask
Go
one
go.
quick question
Oh yeah,
since we
well,
have you. Yeah. So, what do you think is gonna happen? You were talking about shows. You're talking about movies. The Jackal. I know you're excited for the remake that's coming out
mm-hmm.
with Mr. Redmayne or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be better than the original or worse?
You know, the interesting thing about this is I'm already started to hear stories from the British version. You know, it's out on Sky. And what people are
Mm.
saying is like after like the third episode, this shtick starts to get boring. And the secret
Mm.
agent that is meant to go after him is
No
also not very
spoilers.
good.
Okay.
I don't even know.
No
I don't know what
spoilers.
is happening in the show. Basically, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just giving
Okay.
impressions. So I think that's what I'm
Interesting.
hearing. And it's making me feel I'm going to invest my time in it. I'm going to watch it. But I'm
But you
also a
have a
little
bad
bit.
feeling.
I have a bad feeling because
Mm.
what made the Day of the Jackal really good was the huge amount of suspense that was going on.
Love
Huge
tension.
amount of
Yeah.
suspense about whether his plan was going to succeed or not. If you change the whole story into an action film where it's like basically the suspense is based on each episode, are they going to catch him this episode or not? Are they going to catch him this episode or not? It kind of loses
Loses steam.
the impact.
Yeah.
So I worry that they may have messed it up already. So that's what I'm thinking. But I'm going to give it a
Interesting.
shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fawaz, I'm curious. What are your views on
Best reboots, worst reboots, both. Okay, best reboots, like you said earlier, Dune. I think Dune remake was amazing, and it was needed because I went back and looked at that 1986 version. Y'all did what y'all could.
Yeah.
Planet of the
Did
Apes,
you
same.
did you send a message to Quentin Tarantino about that because he's been making a lot of noise this week?
Man,
I
Quentin.
mean,
Quentin.
when isn't he making noise
Yeah,
is the question.
Quentin needs to go sit down sometimes, man. Like I love his, I see those movies, man. Quentin, sometimes you need to chill out, man.
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes trilogy, the Caesar franchise, man, I thought it was so beautiful. I rewatched it recently. Caesar's arc. I think I was talking to you like a few months ago how like good Caesar's arc is as a just general character in that world.
Yeah.
Amazing. 21 Jump Street, a remake and a reimagining of the movie, and did extremely well and hit all the marks. I want to say Batman. I want to say the Robert Pattinson Batman, and the reason why I want to put that one in there, because it tells the story of a different angle of Batman. It tells a new story of a new Batman, and it goes more into the detective aspect of Batman rather than the superhero flying around with all the gadgets, cape, crusader.
True.
Which I thought was cool. I think it was probably underappreciated. But then again, most people are just Batman fans from the movies. They don't really like delve into some of the other stories.
Detective. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. Ones that I didn't really like, and sorry, I mean, it's probably a lot of like super stuff. The Spider-Man reboots. The Tom Holland one is great. The one before Andrew Garfield, pretty mid. Pretty bad. I don't want to say it was bad, but it wasn't great. Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. The Tomb Raider movie, I didn't like it. The Hellboy reboot, I don't think it was good. I don't think it was needed, to be honest. I think Guillermo del Toro did. You didn't even need to revisit that.
And then just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. Like maybe 30 years when graphics come and all that. Yeah. Leave it. Yeah, you can revisit then.
Yeah.
The Ghostbusters movie. Like I said, Fantastic Four. I don't think there's anything. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with reboots or remaking. I think a lot of times, though, I think it's like, oh, I have this thing in the vault, and I know a lot of people love it, and we can just tap into it and make a lot of money because it's a known thing. It's a cash cow, exactly. And they'll just be like, let's attach names to it.
A good story is always a good story, right?
Yes, I agree. But you have to do it. Even if you're gonna cash cow it, it still feels like there has to be passion involved in the cash cow.
Yeah, you have to pay homage.
There has to be passion, and it feels more like, all right, we're looking at the spreadsheet, we're looking at the demographics, we know we have these items, and we can just like match it. Okay, we have Ghostbusters, we have this. Let's do this. Let's switch it up this way to catch these demographics. So it's like they're playing spreadsheet games instead of like trying to say, oh, we know a director that would be really good for this movie. Like if we try to remake this, we know a guy who does movies like this, and I think it'll knock it out of the park, right? So that's what some of the remakes feel like, at least to me. Like Fantastic Four, that latest reboot with Michael B. Jordan being Johnny Storm and stuff. I was like, why is he Johnny Storm? Okay, whatever. But it felt like everything just felt like spreadsheet games. They're just trying to like, oh, we got to get this guy, we got to get this demographic. If we do this, we'll get to the young blacks. If we do this, we'll get to the women, the what. Then we can do this and get to the. It's like, bro, just make the movie that was there. I mean, you can reimagine characters, but it just felt like they weren't piecing the things together properly.
Nah,
it showed when the movies came out and people didn't like it because there are remakes that people love. So
before I do want to clarify that, just make the movie you want. Let's be clear that movies I'm making is a profit-driven business, right?
I agree.
You want to make a movie that somebody that would reach the four quadrangles and have the four angles and let people come out. So you can't just make a movie like The Eternals and expect people to come out to watch it.
See, here's the thing. The Eternals felt like spreadsheet games to me. That's just me. It felt like spreadsheet games because I watched the movie and I was just like, okay, it's cool. They had some cool parts, but it's like there's no fire in this movie, and it shows because they have never talked about them guys ever again. Like that. That Titan is just in the middle of Earth and no one ever sees it.
Plot hole.
It's just there. No one sees it. So
this actual hole.
It is profit driven. Yeah, I mean, it is a business. I agree, and you always have to work to get as many people and get as much.
You have to combine them.
It's a mix. Yeah, it's a mix.
You have to combine them. You have to bring the passion, and you also have to. We still have to make money at the end of the day. So, I get it.
I'm gonna ask you guys the last question. I'm gonna ask you before we end this topic
Yeah,
Go on.
sorry. Before you end it, I want to come back to that point he just made, and go back
Mm.
to the point you made earlier about everything, everywhere, all at once. The movie
Mm-hmm.
made 140 whatever million,
3.
3 million. Yeah.
103 million. I looked at the budget, and the budget was like 14 to 25 million to make that movie. So they
Okay.
either 10x to 4x their profit margins, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It was a significant portion.
yeah, it was a significant
Significant
portion.
profit. Yeah.
Yeah, and even as you're watching the movie, even first time I watched the movie, you could tell like, okay, this feels like more like an indie movie. It's not a AAA
Mm-hmm.
blockbuster type deal. But you could tell as they were making the movie, in the writing and the execution, there was a
Mm.
lot of work and passion that went into making that project come together, and it showed on the screen when you finally
Yeah.
watched it. It's something like amorphous that you can't really put your finger on, but when you see it, you know it.
Yeah.
And a lot they like clearly those guys wanted to make money. They wanted it to be successful, which it ended up being, and it was a risk that they took telling that type of story the way they told it, because there was so much goofy stuff in there that wouldn't even appeal to the widest audience possible, right? But it worked, and through it working, it made even more money. So
It did.
when they try to expand that quadrangles to all corners, what they end up finding is that they actually had to get almost nobody,
But I
and
will
very
also
few
point.
people come out to support.
I will also, and I will also point out that most movies that go through that route do not succeed.
Do not
So
succeed. Yes,
just because
yes.
everything everywhere all at once did,
Exception, not the rule.
it doesn't
Yeah,
mean it's a good story. Most people don't make films that are successful,
yeah,
and the studios have to be very wary of that.
yeah. They eat the cost.
I want to
Yeah.
ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Last question on this topic, and then we'll move on. Was Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, that came out in 2017, better than the original Jumanji?
No. To me, no. To me, personally, no. I mean, you can't top Robin Williams, man. That's all. Yeah. I mean, that just me personally, right? And I'm sure you guys will disagree. I think this is probably one of those bones of content. Channels Television played that movie like
All the
every
time.
week,
Non-stop. Yeah.
every week. I think at one point I could tell you exactly what this person was gonna say the next scene. I think Kirsten Dunst was in that. I remember Robin Williams. It was a really good movie, and I think it was a very well told. Now I don't think the new ones are bad,
Yeah.
right? But I don't think they were better than the original.
I just the reason why I laugh when you brought up that topic is because I remember that SNL skit where they're doing the Jumanji. Is Jumanji coming out of Jumanji, or are we going into the Jumanji? I just started thinking about it. I think the second one tried to modernize it, and I think that's fine. I don't think it hit the same as the first one, but I don't know if that's because of the movie. I think it's because of the time we're in. Like, I think back then that was more fantastical then than what happened in the new one is now.
I see your points. I see your points, because at the end of the day, I'm watching this as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old. So my view probably
completely
just came with me from my. I mean, I think that's a fair situation, right? It is like you watch
Nostalgia.
these kids. As a kid, it's nostalgia is playing a huge part.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might be better. You're right, but like the 10-year-old in me is like, you better not say anything bad about my Robin Williams Jumanji, right?
About Robin Williams, he definitely
he
carried that movie in a way that I don't think anyone did in the newer one.
I will go again.
And also,
I'll even go. I talk about Hook, right? Like, I don't think any other Peter Pan movie has even come close to like the original, and it wasn't even like just the story in and of itself of Hook was different. It wasn't like a original Peter Pan story. Peter Pan's grown up. It was intelligent. It was well done. I think that was who was that? Was it who directed? Was it Steven Spielberg?
I'm
Who
not
did
sure.
Hook?
The original
I'm
Jumanji?
curious. The original
No,
Hook.
Hook.
Oh,
Peter Pan, yeah, with Robin Williams. But yeah. Anyways, the point is, when you're kids, you see again. There's this fantastical view of these movies, and so when you're as an adult, it's probably harder to impress you as
Yeah,
an adult with some
yeah.
of these movies, right? So yeah, no, I agree with you. But I mean, if anybody asks me, man, it's the original Jumanji for me.
Yeah.
I'll hold on to that nostalgia.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
like say
to
I'll say. Sorry, am I going?
for me, I'll end this topic on a controversial note. I'll say the original is a powerhouse of Robin Williams, but the newer one is a more coherent film. Um, and it
Okay.
takes the focus off a main character, but gives a better story. So, yeah,
let's agree to
Okay.
disagree.
That's
let's
fair.
agree to
I,
disagree. All right.
yeah.
Before we go, there's been a number of new trailers this week, including what do you call it? The new Captain America film,
Cap. Yep.
and Thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen the trailers? How do you feel about this next year of Marvel films coming up?
Can I get my rants off first before you answer? Please.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I don't know where Marvel is going. I don't know what the direction is now. Because I did watch Agatha as well recently. I think maybe we are too tied to the idea of Thanos, like how they introduced Thanos, or maybe me, I should say, I am too tied to the idea. How they introduced Thanos and executed the whole Infinity War, whatever series of events. Now it seems a little aimless, and with the introduction of the multiverse, things seem a lot less important as to what's going on. The movies look fine. Like, I don't think there's been any Marvel product that I've seen that's been like truly executed poorly. Like, none of them have been technically bad because they have some of the best people working on these things, the CGI, the choreography.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's lost a little bit of its soul in the stories that it's telling, and it seems a little aimless at the moment. So I thought the trailer was cool. I was like, man, this looks cool, but like after we watch it, like, where's this actually going? Like, is it just another movie?
And
What's the point?
Do you know who I'm looking at the shirt that this guy has on now, and that your criticism is coming down to movies like that, right? That Deadpool Wolverine movie. There's multiverse now. You can destroy a multiverse and then just open another one. It like, where are we going with this? It's like Loki is now the king of the multiverse. With that, like, he's just like there's no direction. And to be fair, DC have a solid chance right now to
take
get
over.
in, and take over, because Marvel is. I mean, what was the point of Agatha all along? Yes, it was well done. You guys are right. All these things are well done.
Technically,
but like, where are we going? We should now, like, what are we doing? Is Scarlet Witch coming back? Like, what? And then let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're talking Marvel. Are you guys all stoked to have this guy come back as Doctor Doom? Is that what we're doing now? That was a terrible idea. Talking about remakes, bringing somebody now that, cash cow, right? This guy is our cash cow. We can't get rid of Robert Downey Jr. because there's nobody else on this planet that can play Doctor Doom, right? Like that. I lost my mind. Yeah, I was pissed.
That was a big mistake in my eyes.
Is it only...
In the moment, people are going to cheer. People are going to cheer in that moment when they bring him on stage. But when they watch the movie that's going to come out, they're like, that's what's going to happen. Because I think they messed up. They should have just done a Doom movie, and just instead of doing Fantastic Four, they should have just done Doom, and just started that way. But whatever, they're gonna do Fantastic Four for the eighth time.
Let's see. We could be wrong, right? And it works out, and Robert Downey Jr. comes back, and everybody loves it.
Yeah,
But like
maybe.
at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it's like, where are we going? Are we going? It's almost like we're going around in circles.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now, just let's remove Homeboy, Robert Downey Jr., and think about who could have played him. I could have thought about Viggo Mortensen would have been a great Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Um, Even John Hamm,
Mi-
There are too many
Michael
could have been
Fassbender.
actors. There are
Michael
too
Michael
Fassbender would
many
have been a
Fassbender,
good.
Cillian
actors. There are too
Murphy,
many. There are
Killian
too
Murphy
um,
would have been
many
a great one.
There are too many actors.
A
even
I
lot of
Hayden
people
feel
that
like
could have played.
Christensen could have
yeah, there
could
are
have
too
played a
many
good Jean Dujardin.
actors.
Um,
What are we
There's a
we
lot
could
of
have
doing?
people,
a
bro.
whole lot of people who could have done it, but the fact that they brought Robert Downey Jr. back is very interesting. I
I
will say
think they.
this because
Hmm.
go on, Faraz.
No, I was gonna say I think they saw the failures they've been having with the shows and movies, and they were like, all right, let's bring back someone that people
It's
love, so we can and
Mm.
yeah, so they can get excitement back. I think it was a
Yeah.
big mistake in the long run. Short term is like, yeah,
Yeah.
you get your excitement, but in the long term, people are gonna watch that whatever movie you're making and go like, wait, why is this guy back?
My question now
Yeah.
becomes: at the end of movie number 25, Avengers 2, and when they brought back everyone, everybody was saying like, Marvel, what an incredible series! 10 years, or was it 12 years of some of
Yeah,
the most
planning.
coherent films ever made. Wow, DC should be doing this, and DC was always like, let's make each individual movie its own thing. The Batman
Yeah.
universe can live within the Batman universe. We can have another set of series that contains everybody, like Justice League and all of that stuff. But
Hmm.
now that the movies themselves are corrupted, it's affected the whole. It's poured
World.
water in the whole Marvel comics,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is the idea that we had like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, as Avengers 2 was finishing up or whatever. That was like 3 or 4 years. I don't know how long it came out. That time, that period after that movie came out, everybody um, was quite happy with where we were. Was
Yeah.
it a um, was it too early to judge the successes? Because now that Marvel has sidestepped and we are seeing trailers. I mean, I was watching the Thunderbolts trailer and I was just thinking, it feels like Suicide Squad on Earth. The characters
Yeah.
just feel like Suicide Squad on Earth. And do we feel like the Marvel plan is as solid as it was, like 5, 10 years ago?
No,
I
I
don't think
don't.
so.
I don't think
Um,
so. Yeah.
I think after the Avengers 2, they should have had a cool down period of like a year before they brought anything else out. They should have
Yep.
taken that year to like plan out whatever the next. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are planning this already, but they should have given the audience a time to like reset their mind and
Yeah.
plan a new generation of things to come instead
Yeah.
of just
They
like
didn't do that.
spitting out a show every quarter,
They
a movie
didn't. They
every
didn't do
quarter,
that.
and
They didn't
everything
do that.
suffered as a result. I think
And do
DC.
you?
I
I
think
mean, do you think the
DC.
streaming
Mm,
wars played a role in it too? Right? Like now, all of a sudden, everybody's in streaming, and so
yeah,
there's this. You have to justify your $9.99 a month or whatever it is
yeah.
that you're charging people.
I
Do you
think
think that played into it as
I think
well? I
it did
mean,
play a role, but we're also talking about Disney. If we put it in all context, Disney had bought like 38% of all the Hollywood IPs. They had other things in the works, so I don't think it was necessary for them to. I mean, this is hindsight, obviously, but I don't think it was necessary for them to pull out all that content all at once in a year because it was a movie and a show coming out every quarter for the Marvel stories, and all of a sudden everything just kind of sucked. But I do think DC, by doing singular movies, I think they have the chance to actually overtake. I like both, but I think DC probably has better stories, anyways. I think the first couple um, movies that they didn't really
not
capture
Joker.
it. I mean, not that. That's not. That doesn't even count. That doesn't even count. Yeah, they didn't do well to capture like some of the real DC, the gritty DC stories that exist in that world. Like doing a new Superman. Like I am of the mind that if they do a new Superman, they should have someone like Brainiac or Metallo, because yeah, I feel like it would just be a better story for Superman to really get a better understanding of Superman instead of him always fighting Kryptonians and fighting aliens and But yeah, that's just me. I think Marvel fucked up. They fucked up. That's it.
On that note, I think we can wrap up this week's discussions. Any last minute words you wanted to bring up?
No, I think it was. Well, me personally, I thought this was a good discussion. We kind of
Do
talked
you feel
about
better?
remakes.
Less funk?
Eh, yeah, I'll go to my gym sauna and go and sweat out my sorrows. I'll be okay.
All right. Well, men have feelings too, is what I say.
Men do have
Stop
feelings.
saying that. Stop saying that.
No, but it's
What's
true.
wrong with you?
We have feelings, but we can
Why
only
you-
cry once every 10 years.
Why is he making it into a gender thing? Like,
Oh, yeah, I feel for
the
you,
point.
man. I
Why
feel
you keep
for you.
calling it out? You're not my therapist. What's your problem?
All right.
I will say
It's okay.
my one thing to say before I sign out. Go watch Arcane on Netflix. Also, you all failed me in
It's
not
definitely
watching.
on my list.
Not
Definitely
watching.
on my list.
What's that show I love so much? Scavengers Reign. It's not getting renewed for season
Scavengers
2.
Reign, yeah.
I blame the audience. Okay, go on.
It might still come back. Who knows? Fingers
No,
crossed.
it's not coming back.
I don't think so, but
It's
man.
not coming back.
Okay, guys. It was nice
All
hanging
right.
out with you guys.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
out.
Hope you guys have a good rest of
Hey.
the week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Ciao.
Peace.